My name is Zoe Hayes, and I'm 31 years old. Competence doesn't announce itself, it hums. The dishwasher slipped into off-peak at 12:01, the budget cells sealed themselves in soft green, and the apartment stayed anchored while the rest of the world swirled. I like ballast. Nobody praises ballast until the boat lists. Thursday night should have been perfect. The lamp carved a soft triangle of light across the rug Ethan picked, which really meant I bought it and he approved. The apartment smelled faintly of bergamot and roasted garlic, the faintest hint of something comforting and domestic. I was closing out a monthly reconciliation when Ethan's voice drifted from the living room. He was on speakerphone. "Mom, I just don't want her to ever know," he said, low but clear. "She'll think we're still trying. She's been so excited about it. I couldn't take that look from her," replied a woman's voice. My fingers froze above the keyboard. Valerie Walker, Ethan's ex-girlfriend, college sweetheart, the one he said he hadn't spoken to in over a year. Her voice carried that practiced, soft panic that made you think she always believed she knew better than everyone else. I didn't move. My mind raced. Why is she calling him? What are they talking about? I stayed perfectly still, listening. Part of me wanted to storm into the room, demand answers, rip the phone from his hand. But another part, the part that had learned to survive through observation, told me to wait, to see. The irony of it hit me. Years of meticulous planning, spreadsheets, reminders, quiet order in my life. And all it took was a single phone call to unravel the calm. I tried to focus on my reconciliation spreadsheet, pretending the numbers mattered more than the words floating through the room. Ethan's voice was calm, reasonable even, but there was an edge, a careful tone, a tone meant to soothe, to persuade, to conceal. "She'll never know," he said again. "I promise. You just don't let her see this." I bit back a sharp laugh. "She won't see it?" My chest tightened. I could feel the first ripple of suspicion, and with suspicion came that familiar pulse of anger, caution, and calculation. I closed my laptop slowly, letting the silence of the apartment stretch. My pulse was steady outwardly, but inwardly, I was a storm. Every little detail of our shared life, the quiet routines, the steady rhythms, suddenly felt fragile, breakable. I thought about the lamp, the rug, the smell of the apartment, the very air I had arranged for peace. And here it was, peace shattered, hanging on a voice I hadn't wanted to hear. I did not confront him. Not yet. Instead, I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and watched the shadows the lamp carved on the walls. Observe first, Zoe. Watch, and then act. I had learned that small cracks, if ignored, became sinkholes. Trust was the same way. Quiet, almost imperceptible shifts. The tone of a voice, the sudden secrecy of a phone, the choice of words, revealed far more than brute confrontation ever could. And in that quiet, I realized something crucial. The ballast I had relied upon, the calm, the order, the predictable routine, was no longer enough. Something had been set in motion, something I hadn't seen coming. But I was still in control. I had always been in control. And I would remain so. The next few days were a study in subtle shifts. Ethan's phone had always been there, part of the background hum of our life. But now it was different. Face down on the coffee table, buzzing quietly with messages he would take in the other room, calls he would answer with his back turned, fingers tight around the device, a tension in his shoulders I had never noticed before. I watched him from the kitchen doorway one evening, pretending to rinse dishes. The glow of his phone illuminated his face as he typed, quick and deliberate. He didn't notice me, but I noticed everything. I remembered Valerie Walker, the way her voice had carried over the speakerphone, the practiced softness masking urgency. Something about her felt deliberate, calculated, dangerous. I didn't confront Ethan that night. I didn't storm into the living room, didn't demand explanations. Instead, I opened my laptop, logged into our shared accounts, and started looking for clues. It didn't take long. Emails, travel plans, Paris, room reservations, under Ethan's name and hers. Flirty exchanges escalating into a tone I recognized immediately, the one people use when they think no one is watching, when the illusion of privacy gives them courage. I stared at the screen, hands trembling slightly. My mind cataloged everything methodically, the dates, the transactions, the plans, all pointing to one undeniable conclusion. He had been planning this, and she had been complicit. The moral weight pressed down on me. I could call him out immediately, scream, throw the house into chaos. But I knew better. I had always known better. I had options, leverage, strategy, and I would use it. I took a deep breath and picked up the phone, calling our joint credit card company. "Hi," I said evenly, letting the calm settle into my words. "I'd like to report suspected fraudulent activity on our account." The representative was professional, calm. She explained the process. Pending investigation, account freeze, 5 to 7 business days. Perfect. I hung up with a sense of cold satisfaction. I hadn't acted out of malice, I told myself. I had acted out of necessity. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. My mind replayed the evidence, the betrayal, the audacity. Part of me felt guilty. Most of me felt vindicated. I had been precise, careful, morally justified. And yet the adrenaline of control coursed through me like fire. Ethan was oblivious. He went about his day, laughed at dinner, kissed me goodnight, unaware that the quiet balance of our lives had shifted irreparably. By Saturday, 2 days into their planned Paris trip, my phone exploded with messages I didn't answer. Calls, texts, frantic, Ethan's ex-girlfriend reaching out in panic. I let them pile up. I didn't respond. Not yet. The calm of my apartment, the soft triangle of light on the rug, the faint smell of bergamot, all of it remained unchanged. Outside, the world was chaos. Inside, I held the center. I had discovered the truth. I had acted. And now I waited. This was only the beginning. By Sunday morning, the consequences of my actions had fully taken shape. Ethan's ex-girlfriend, Valerie, was stranded in Paris. Her frantic texts spilled across my phone like wildfire. Calls came from numbers I didn't recognize, each one more desperate than the last. I ignored them. I sat at the kitchen counter, coffee steaming beside me, letting the storm rage miles away, while I remained anchored in quiet, calculated calm. 5 days of chaos, or maybe just the beginning, I thought. The irony wasn't lost on me. A trip meant for pleasure had become a lesson in accountability, delivered in real time across thousands of miles. Then the phone rang. "Hello, this is Officer Leclerc with the Paris police," a formal voice said. "I am calling regarding Ms. Walker. She has not paid her hotel accommodations. The hotel has filed charges. They report she is unable to leave France without resolving this matter." I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the words settle. "Yes," I said evenly. "I reported suspected fraudulent activity on the joint card she used. The account is frozen pending investigation." There was a pause. Then, carefully measured, the officer continued. "She claims that you did this deliberately. She says you are withholding funds. How do you respond?" I breathed in, exhaled slowly. "This is a domestic matter. Legally, I am not obliged to fund a vacation planned under fraudulent pretenses. She will need to settle the hotel directly. I am not responsible for her poor choices." I hung up, my heartbeat steady. My moral calculus was clear. I had acted to protect my finances, expose deceit, and assert control. Valerie's panic was a consequence she had earned. Later that afternoon, I received a text from an unknown number. "This is Ethan. You need to fix this. Valerie is stuck. Please, you have to pay the hotel." I stared at it. Ethan? Or someone pretending? I typed back simply, "She's an adult. She can resolve her own mistakes." Minutes later, more texts. Desperate pleas, threats, almost frantic bargaining. Valerie had borrowed a friend's phone, convinced that appealing to me personally would resolve the impasse. I read them with a detached calm. They were frantic, yes, but also deliberate. A perfect mirror of the audacity that had brought her to Paris in the first place. By Monday, the hotel had escalated. Calls from embassy liaisons, social services, even friends of Valerie reached me. I answered minimally, always polite, always calm. I did not bend. I would not. This was a lesson in accountability, and I was not going to be the one delivering excuses. I had acted precisely, fairly, and with clear moral grounding. And yet, watching the texts pile up, the pleading and chaos unfold, I could not deny a faint thrill at the order I had restored in my own life. Because in that moment, one thing became undeniably clear. I was no longer the passive participant. I was the axis on which the events now turned, and every desperate move from thousands of miles away only reinforced the power of observation, patience, and strategic restraint. Valerie was flailing. I was composed. I was anchored. I was in control, and I would stay that way. Tuesday morning, Valerie finally returned. Exhausted, disheveled, her eyes rimmed with red from sleepless nights on airport benches, she stepped into what used to be her world. My apartment smelled the same, bergamot, roasted garlic, but the atmosphere had shifted. The calm was now mine, earned, deliberate, absolute. She approached cautiously. "Zoe." Her voice trembled. Not for the first time, I noted. She expected mercy. I met her gaze steadily. "Your things are in the car. Boxes on the left. The house is mine now." Her lips quivered. I didn't mean—" "You did exactly what you meant," I interrupted. The words were calm, precise, like a scalpel. "Planning a secret vacation, using joint finances, deceiving everyone involved. You knew the consequences. You just didn't anticipate enforcement." She looked around, taking in the quiet order of my space, the carefully aligned rug, the lamp casting its triangle of light. I could see the weight of realization pressing down, the full scope of her choices unfolding like a map she could no longer navigate. Weeks later, the divorce was finalized. The agreement. Valerie received her personal items, her car, and a cash settlement carefully calculated, but no alimony. The house, the bulk of our savings, retirement accounts, and my dignity remained mine. She had lost more than money, reputation, trust, and the illusion of control. I reflected quietly, sitting in my now solitary apartment, on what had transpired. Some people would ask if I regretted freezing the credit card, leaving her stranded in Paris. The answer was no. Every act she had taken to deceive, every dollar she spent, every lie she told, had consequences. I had merely ensured she faced them. In the end, it wasn't vengeance, it was clarity, it was order restored. I sold the house the following month, securing a solid profit and closing the chapter on the 8 years that had once defined me. Each room, each object, each scent, the quiet ballast of my life now represented freedom, not compromise. Zoe Hayes, 31, had reclaimed control. The chaos had raged and passed. Lessons had been learned, consequences delivered, and I had emerged intact, resolute, and unapologetically myself. No regrets, no looking back.